Bam! Hey, it's me, Mr. TDF. And today I just, really wanted to talk about Godzilla Final Wars and stuff. I was gonna make this video last December, but it got overlooked by me. But hey, now it's 2025. I'm gonna make things right and talk about Godzilla Final Wars and I've got a glorious ale right here, and I hope with this beautiful discussion today, because today is a holiday. It may be a day or two late, but look behind me, Godzilla Final Wars recently celebrated its 21st anniversary. As Mr. TDF said a moment ago, this was going to be a video a year ago, but why not do it now, a year later, huh? Regardless, this series has been quite interesting, for me at least, and being a Final Wars anniversary. Somehow I had a lot of new merchandise that relates to Final Wars. First up, when I went to Europe, I got this Chainsaw Gaigan right here. Always wanted a Chainsaw Gaigan. I always had the original Bandai USA, but now I have the newer release of the Chainsaw one. Glorious. And of course, I mentioned in our last video, I got this beautiful Final Wars Rodan from my buddy Nick. So Nick helped me get Final Wars Rodan, and my buddy James helped me get Chainsaw Gaigan. Good stuff all around. Regardless, a little bit more housekeeping. I got the 50th anniversary release. You see right there, if you remember the little ad, you know. I got this Thai release. It comes in 2 discs, because half the film in one, half in the other. I got that release right here. It's really good. And of course, I have Godzilla and Gears back there. Basically, Final Wars. Shout out to Ray Kitamura himself, the big man director, for noticing my comment on Instagram. Shout out to you. Thank you so much for being an integral part of my childhood. I mean it. I adore this film. As I get older, I love it even more. I'm going to tell you why today in the beauty of Godzilla Final Wars, Episode 4 of Mugal's Reviews. Ah, yes. Now, this film, of course, is another one in the Godzilla fandom that is quite divisive. Or, if you find normal normies, they might not even like it, or they might love it. Wherever you go, it's a pretty divisive film. However, you also find a lot of people that adore it, and a lot that might not, for reasons understandable on both sides. As for me, well, I loved it as a kid. I went that one period as a teenager, like, Godzilla can't be, he can't have fun. And then, as an adult now, an old man, I gotta say, I love Final Wars as I did when I was a kid. Full circle, like a beer of glass. And I gotta say, Final Wars, I really love it for a lot of reasons. And, it's interesting, like an old buddy of mine, Adam, his 2 favorites are Shin Godzilla and Final Wars. So, you see, there's with Godzilla and fans, there's a lot of love for good reasons. The variety, that taste, that flavor of different films and how they coincide with each other, and a nice catalog. And that's why I really have come to appreciate with Final Wars years later. It can be loud, it can be gigantic, but Ray Kitamura, his own perspective as a director, really makes this film a highlight for me years later. I mean, come on, he brought some cool, stylized wire-on-wires martial arts to the film, to a Godzilla film, and I like that. It helps add a nice element of action to the human characters, because the characters in this film more so there as just to look cool. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I understand a lot of people, what they wanted out of 50th anniversary Godzilla film, something probably a bit more, I guess, dramatic in the sense of having a big metaphor. Well, that's not to say Final Wars doesn't have one at all. For instance, with Final Wars, now I'm kind of rambling today, but what I really like about it is with the grandpa character and the kid and Manila, that little trio. They have a small amount of screen time sprinkled throughout the film, but it pays off at the end. Why? Well, that grandpa character, that hunter, what he teaches his kid, is the moment I really like. It's one after Godzilla defeats Kamakras and he's stopping around that small countryside town right before his big fight with the other 3. And the grandpa tells the kids, as the kid is asking why is Godzilla so angry at us? Why is he still destroying the city, And he tells them that, well, Godzilla can't forgive humanity because of a great fire they burned him with long ago, alluding to the atomic bomb, of course. In addition, just warfare as a whole and humanity's own inherent destruction nature, which I think is what Final Wars is more so about. Just the inherent destructive nature of human, more so than any particular war. Just humanity as a whole, which is why the monsters started sprouting. It's why the Exilians want to use humans as cattle, and it's why Godzilla himself is so pissed off at us still. And I like that even if Godzilla was frozen for some amount of time, the second he bursts out, he's attacking the Gotengo, and he's destroying cities, and he's just dishing out his hatred on us because he still can't forgive humanity. I like that. You didn't need a big elaborate explanation for his Godzilla's origin. Instead, you're going with what people assume that they know about Godzilla and his whole history, and I like that because throughout his history, in the first 50 years, regardless of if he was explicitly destroying us because he got hit by an atomic bomb, or if he's just waking up again to attack us once again, or whatever other reason, it's still the inherent nature of warfare itself, or just humanity's destructive nature, and if that's the little backbone we get for this beautiful dish, then I like it. I think it's quite nice. And again, that little moment with the grandpa and his son, or his grandson, a good moment, and having Milla there watching Godzilla just makes it a great moment. And it pays off the finale with both the kid and Manila helping defuse the situation and stopping both the adults from fighting and then Godzilla himself from fighting. Because again, they both just work together to save Earth and they're still gonna fight each other. Like, that's the central theme of the film, huh? Sure, you can come together and fight some bigger threat, whatever you may perceive it as, but at the end of the day, if there's two sides or whoever is still fighting each other, then what was the point of teaming up? We're still gonna be fighting each other in the end, huh? So I quite like that real nicely. And honestly, it kind of is a nice commentary of Godzilla himself as a whole. He's a version that's kind of a conglomeration of other versions, but he has that little show of bite to him I like, as in, if you remember original Godzilla versus the Smog Monster, right? After Godzilla defeats the Hedorah, he looks at the JSDF and the humans and kind of growls at them. He scowls because he knows that they helped make Hedorah who it was at the end of the film, right? A pollution monster. And you kind of get that here of Godzilla. He already, he kills Gigan in Antarctica, then he immediately goes after the Gotengo and Ozaki and Captain Gordon and everybody. You can just tell it's always personal for Godzilla, and I like that. That's kind of carried over here. That's the one Showa thing about this Godzilla that is there. Now, when it comes to Showa as a whole, let me backtrack. A lot of the monsters in this film don't really get a lot of moments to show off their personality. They're mostly big set pieces. Again, just kind of the style of this film. Callbacks are there when the characters themselves are there, whether it's a nice Atragon reference of Manda and Gotengo, or Gorath making an appearance, or Godzilla bursting out of the ice like it did in the original King Kong and Godzilla film, or so many other references, right? It's galore. And of course, you have Exilians and invasions, and the thing here is that, this film is heavily stylized in the early 2000s aesthetic, right? Lots of filters, stylized armor set pieces, fantastic futuristic designs. There's the Matrix moment at the end when Ozaki gets his Kaiser energy. It's all there. But, of course, there's leather galore, lots of leather in this movie. And then Don Fry. We love Don Fry. What a badass. Don Fry? He's a goddamn badass. And I'll drink to that. Now, as an alien Mugal myself, I gotta say, I quite like the Exilians in this film. I always like a good alien invasion. But regardless, and they are quite violent too, that's good. Good to have violence. But regardless, when it comes to Showa elements, they are there mostly as set dressing, and for me, that's fine, right? I'm glad Kinemura got to do his own version of Godzilla, hyper stylized, but still a love letter. Like, sure, yes, Godzilla does murder a lot of his foes left and right. Although, as I revisit this film years later, I always assumed there's a lot more monsters in the film. Then I went back like, there is a lot, but not like it's not the entire franchise. It's just I'd say 70% of Showa characters are in this film. They are just about, maybe 65%, but Godzilla, there. The fights are all done in like 1 or 2 attacks. That's kind of the idea, right? A lot of wire action, the human fight scene. The same applies to the kaiju. They're mostly there just to look cool, to be some remember berries, I suppose. And Godzilla does dish out damage and kill streaks and fatalities left and right. But again, right? It's only short bursts, right? It is an action-packed film, but all the action of the monsters are in short bursts. And that's fine for what they're going for. I just wish if they were going to have short bursts of action, then throw in some more kaiju or make the fights a little longer, right? Again, I'm satisfied with what we got, but if you were going to have the fights be so short, then you could have thrown in a few more kaiju. I'm glad that the Final Wars design got the comeback years later. Recently, 4 years of short films, right? One short film a year. And I'm glad that Final Wars Fedora finally got to be in the spotlight. I can't believe that was 4 years ago in 2021. Damn, I'm getting old. But regardless, we did get some payoff years later, but that's in a different project, right? When it comes to the Final Wars film itself, I do wish some of the kaiju had some more to do. Right, I mean, again, Rodan and Geras and Ebra, they get some really good scenes. Again, that Ebra fight scene, if you ever played an Earth Defense Force game, that's literally what it is. They use Maser bazookas to fight Ebra. I feel like a lot of the budget did go to that fight scene because the compositing, the blending of tokusatsu with real humans, big human-sized sets and sets for the kaiju, some CGI, some cool water work, and power techniques. Again, the scale, the sense of scale of Ebra in that fight scene is a real highlight of the film. And I gotta say, if anybody ever tells you you can't do tokusatsu today, they are lying to you, they're delusional, and they are wrong, and they don't like beer. Because let me tell you, you can do tokusatsu in the prime age of 2025. You can. Look at Ultraman. I do Ultraman on this channel. Or Mr. TF does Ultraman on this channel. Look, there's a lot of cool Ultraman stuff as well done today. And if you go back to Final Wars 20 years later, that Ebra scene is just another example of why you can always do tokusatsu, and the blending of practical effects, real life imagery, and CGI, and other cool post effects. Look at it. Beautiful scene. Real highlight again. Of course, the manga scene in the beginning is a really cool blending of CGI and the real puppets. I love Manda's design in this film. And the 3v1 fight with Anguirus, Rodan, King Caesar, Godzilla is awesome. I love that Godzilla spares them. It's nice. I know, I guess, from I learned and from some, I guess, plans on the set or the script, he was supposed to blow them up, but I'm glad he didn't. Now, you can kind of see in the finished film that Godzilla was supposed to blow up those three, Anguirus, King Caesar, and Rodan, because afterwards, Manila starts to shoot an atomic ring, and then he starts to grow. It's kind of gives the impression that he did just see Godzilla use the atomic breath for his hand, and he was going to try to replicate him. Although now that I think about it, I could be just, inferring too much, because in that same area, Manila saw Godzilla fight Kamacuras and he used his atomic breath there, so okay, I digress. But anyway, I'm glad Godzilla spared those three. Come on, they're his old buddies. I got two of them right here. It's nice, right? That's probably my favorite fight in the film, is the one with Godzilla and those three. And of course, the final fight is phenomenal as well. It's intercut with the human action scenes, but hey, you got Ozaki there, you got Captain Gordon, and you get Akira Takarada making another return after disappearing for the first half of the film, and he shoots some of these aliens and he saves the day. It's awesome. And I think depending on the audio track, Akira Takarada is sort of Prime Minister character, is like, used to call me Mr. Bullseye back in military college or something like that. Badass. He's a goddamn badass as well. Two goddamn badasses. And then you have the Planet X controller, who, if you've ever seen the 2007 Like a Dragon film from the Yakuza games, from the Yakuzers out there, he plays Kiryu in that film, so it's kind of cool seeing him play an evil character here and a more heroic guy in that film. Cool. Speaking of other media that I adore, that crosses into over this film, you had Kane Kasugi playing Kazama, the kind of rival to Ozaki. They don't get a lot of screen time together, it's more of just a colleague rivalry, but it's still there, and they get that cool, really impressive motorcycle fight, and the purest blue, teal, cyan tint I've ever seen Japan ever be in. Cool. And then he gets his nice little moment, he gets his Black Friday shopping armor back on, comes to his senses from being unmind controlled, and Ozaki goes in there, and he kamikazes himself to blow up the power generator, the shield, which after seeing -1, it's kind of funny going to Final Wars and seeing that scene. But again, with the context, it works here in Final Wars. Now, I bring up Ken Kasugi because earlier this year, back in July, I, Alien Mugal, and my co-host for Ultraman Media, Alien and Magma Boulder, we did a crossover episode where he talked about Ultraman Powered, which had Ken Kasugi, as he was in that show playing the main human host of Kai for Ultraman Powered. And in that video, I talked about the first live-action American Godzilla, which was the Zilla 1998 film, right? So, again, full circle, guys. Here we are for episode 4 of Mugal's Reviews. Look how far we've come, huh? A good half year of Mugal being on this channel. And speaking of Zilla, he does get brought up in this film as well. So what do you know, it's all just coming together quite nicely. It's poetic. Mugal's back. Pardon me, I had to get a little upgrade. In the background, you see I got the B-roll footage from my Godzilla Final Wars release. I doubt this will get copyrighted, but here it is in the background. Some more footage for you to enjoy, yeah? I love the behind the scenes, man. And again, it's so cool seeing the Final Wars return years later in those short films. Anyway, I got more AL, so keep talking. Give you beautiful insight on the beauty of Godzilla Final Wars as we start to wrap up in a little bit, but there we go, yeah, alrighty. So, what is the beauty of Godzilla Final Wars, huh? Let me tell you this. Yes, for a lot of fans, even myself at one point, there's a lot you could have won at a 50th anniversary film in 2004. Maybe you wanted something more dramatic. Maybe you just wanted a different return to form that wasn't the way Final Wars did it, right? As it maybe a bit more down to earth than the hyper action we got and the futurism. Or maybe you wanted something very serious, some kind of dark and gritty Godzilla film in the early 2000s. Like, what man that would look like, huh? Or maybe you just wanted something even crazier than what Final Wars was. Or maybe you wanted something that had 3 times about the monsters and less humans. Or maybe you wanted Godzilla to go fight in space. Again, we could go on and on and on and on and on and on and on. But for what we got, or the beauty of what we got, that's what I'm getting at. I do think what we got, I mean, can I ever hate it? No. I mean, look at what we just saw back behind me. Beautiful stuff. Again, I'm going to say that. There were so many routes they could have taken with Final Wars, but when they picked Ryuri Kitamura, this is the film we got, and I really like the way he put these monsters in perspective. Like, look at that. Again, it's his version of the fights, big cast. I'm sure he had to manage the budget and the story, and this is the fights we got, and the human characters we got. The alien invasion and everything, and seeing different sets around the world be destroyed. But again, the beauty of Godzilla Final Wars, I think, is this. Not only is it once again another time capsule for Godzilla, this time being in 2004, what that looked like. You know, Save the Earth came out, we read Save the Earth as a kid in the PS2 game. That was the closest we got to playing as Final Wars as a video game. Like, again, this is the closest Godzilla's ever been to a real-life video game. Just, he goes on an onslaught, he goes on one of those Mortal Kombat towers fighting a bunch of monsters that gets to the final boss. Again, that's pretty much what it is. But you know, if you ever had Save the Earth, you had the old Godzilla Final Wars concept art, which is such a cool thing back in the day. I felt like Godzilla was really cohesive as he was going into his little hiatus. But, you know, Final Wars. At the end, back then, we thought that was the end for Godzilla, at least for a long time. Who knew what the future was going to be like? Again, this Toho really did retire Godzilla. Like, yeah, there was some merchandise and whatnot, some games, but this was like, you know, it's not like they made a TV show or anything afterwards. This was the end for Godzilla for the longest time. 10 years, but 10 long, dry years. For me, I think the beauty is that for Final Wars, time capsule. A director's vision can have more a very action-driven guy who has a cool sense of style and violence, and really making a punch land, and of course making fights just very, again, these fights are very coherent. They may be short, but they're stylized and to the point. I think that is pretty cool. But you can still pull off big fights when you can. But again, I'm bringing up fights because this is like the most action-packed Godzilla film, including the human element. That's why, the whole scale of the film. But I think the beauty of it is the time capsule. Again, at that time, this was the final Godzilla film. And while we may have wanted something a bit more of a meaty message, I think what we got is still beautiful. And it's all about the quiet moments. That's why I brought up earlier that small moment with the grandfather and his grandson in Manila and why Godzilla hates people. You get some cool moments of Captain Gordon being the guy who locked Godzilla away, and now he has to free him. And then you get so many little moments. The Shobijin get a cameo. Again, this, in terms of Showa, may not be the Showa you were wanting as a Showa fan myself, but there's something about it. It's that early 2000s era, right? Look at Ultraman. Ultraman, if you wanted a more earnest return to Showa by having the actual incarnations of Showa return, and Moebius, and even Max. But that early 2000s aesthetic, I think Final Wars is a unique way of doing it, right? It's no continuity, but you can fill in gaps. Hyper stylized, But I think the cool thing is seeing how many other Showa elements that aren't just Godzilla are here, right? Because again, I think the beauty of Final Wars is this. It's not just Godzilla's anniversary, it's a celebration of all things Toho, Tokusatsu. I mean, come on. You have a bunch of other returning actors like Akira Takarada, right? And so many other cameos. And people having supporting roles. You have a return to alien invasion, right? Godzilla didn't even start the alien invasion thing in Toho. Yeah, we had Battle in Outer Space, and even before that, Mysterians. We have films like Gorath get referenced here. Like, how insane would that have been to see a film with the Exilians warning humans about Gorath, right? We know how that turned out in the film, with it being just a ploy on their end to manipulate, but it's such a cool idea. A film that has a new version of Gotengo fighting Panda, and then you get cool things like Manila, and so many other small details, some that I might be forgetting off the top of my head, but again, this feels like such a cool, just celebration of all things Toho Tokusatsu from the Showa era, and for that I really applaud Final Wars. Again, it's not really just Godzilla's 50th anniversary, although he is the main star in the second hour of the film, but it really feels like a celebration of all things Toho, all that's come up to this point and how we got here. For that, as a time capsule, I think that's the beauty of Final Wars. And quite frankly, it's hard to juggle a bunch of kaiju in a film. I do think Final Wars is technically one of the better ones that do that compared to, say, King of the Monsters 2019 or Singular Point, the anime. I do think Final Wars is one of the better ones that Destroy Monsters is able to actually manage a bunch of kaiju. Again, there's always more he could have done, but the structure of the plot and just having Godzilla go through a celebration of just seeing him have a little bit of screen time with these other kaiju once again, well, that's beautiful for me, at least. Alien Mugal. With all that in mind. And, oh yeah, little side note. Koichi Yamadera does the Japanese voiceover opening for this film. You probably know him as Ultraman Zafi and Ultraman, or Akiyama in the Yakuza games. How about that, huh? Small world. But, all in all, I feel like Godzilla Final Wars is a film that I can understand why it's divisive, but for me, Alien Mugal, I just think there's something earnest about it. Like, sure, it may get really lost in its hyper-stylization, and it's just pure action movie formula, but is there anything really wrong with that? We never really saw Godzilla hit that before. It is experimental for Godzilla. I do think that for his 50th anniversary, I am glad he went out going loud. As loud as Kaiser Ghidorah getting launched a billion meters in the atmosphere, blowing up the smithereens. Godzilla gives him the meanest scowl. Like, come on. Good shit. Good shit. I love Godzilla. And if you want to get Final Wars yourself, then let me know in the comments what you think of this film. Anything I should have talked about, anything you disagree with, let me know your thoughts, and check out the other episodes of Alien Mugal's Godzilla reviews, from trying to take the pop culture stance in Godzilla and the fandom, and in broader, outlets and media, and trying to change just how people see these films. Check out my other videos, and check out the Ultraman stuff from my buddy Alien Magma Boulder on the same channel, Mr. TDF. And once again, thank you to Ryuhei Kinemura for seeing me on Instagram, even if ever so briefly, and for being a long-standing part of my childhood. Thank you. Let's have a beer together sometime, huh, Kinemura? Mugal, I let you take over my channel every now and then. What do you do? You shoot me dead. Thank God my beer gut took the shot. It's impervious, of course, my beer gut. Mr. TDF lives.